Alright guys, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between Nurgle and the Greenskins. It's going to be the battle of the two green tides here, and I am going to be coming in with an elite Nurgle army. So as far as my lord goes, it is going to be myself with Tamurkhan, and Gojira here is going to be rocking Skarsnik, and rampaging is very meta in land battles for sure. Being able to rampage a big target, pull it into a bad fight, very, very strong indeed. And I wanted to experiment with elite Nurgle, like super heavy duty with the new Rot Knights. So Rot Knights are anti-large and armor piercing, and Boarboy Biggins and Squigs are both very meta. So I figured, hey, let's go with two Rot Knights and see if their regeneration, staying power, and damage can win me that fight. And on top of that, we got two Plague Ogres with great weapons as well. So the Plague Ogres should be able to help against Boarboy Biggins, and honestly, will probably be okay enough to fight against some of the other Greenskin infantry. On top of that, we got the Nurgle Sorcerer in the trees here, and Tamurkhan is going to be on foot. Bringing a Toad Dragon in this matchup is basically a death sentence. The Orc Airboys will tear it to pieces. It's going to get rampaged, shot down, and the Boarboy Biggins will also skewer it as well. So we will find a matchup for the Toad Dragon. If I had to say where it would be good, Toad Dragon, well, we'll save that for another day, but I haven't really done too much theory crafting with it. So we got Tamurkhan, double Plague Ogre, double Rot Knight, and then we do also have a Chosen of Nurgle up here, like super elite heavy metal shields for me to anchor on, and a couple Marauders out in the open. For Goji's army, he is a dreaded greenskin main here. He's going to be rocking Goblins and Night Goblins with Fanatics in the secondary row, as well as Savage Orc Airboys, which are excellent. They're pretty hard to shut down, good at fighting, and can put a ton of hurt into like Plague Toads and Monstrous units. And of course, Boarboy Biggins are just insanely good. They did get a slight cost increase this patch of 50 gold, but you're still going to be seeing 3 to 4 Boarboy Biggins in like every Dom build and land battle probably as well. Swamp Things in the back, I do like this. A nice debuffing unit, so just Swamp Things going to be spreading the stink of the swamp. -6 melee attack here, and it is on, ladies and gentlemen. Skarsnik with the Rampage. Crimson Kill is quite scary. If they're able to get their clutches on my Chosen, those Chosen will certainly suffer. Normally, Nurgle would probably bring like Festus in this matchup for a Mortis engine, but I do not have one, so the elite infantry of the Greenskins are going to be able to shine. So we'll do some fast forwarding while I posture. My whole plan here was to try and overwhelm Goji's flank. So let's get all my big anti-large and crush his flank and then envelop the army here. So the first fight is going to be underway. We do get the Boarboy Biggins engaging against Tamurkhan and some Rot Knights, but also I do have some Plague Ogres with the Black Cleaver. Look at that, 56 melee attack, absolute beasts, beating down a lot of the Boarboy Biggins as they try and retreat. Granted, the Spirit Leech does help, but overall, I would say that fight went very well for us. Swamp Things are holding us down a little bit. Now the Rot Knights are going to be on their way in. One Rot Knight's going to take the charge at the last second of those guys, and the other Rot Knight is going to have its charge kind of stifled a little bit. So it still kind of gets in there, and Goji doesn't get his charge either. So it was a little bit awkward for both of us. But now we got the Rot Knights versus the Orc Boarboy Biggins. My guys, of course, cost almost twice as much. Tamurkhan here with the Black Cleaver are going to be augmenting the stats of nearby units, and the Chosen are going to be working their way around the sides. Well, this is the problem, the Orc Airboys. So they're peppering into my poor Plague Ogres. So the Plague Ogres were happily fighting Swamp Things, but I do need to pull back at this point. You know, getting just pounded by these missiles from the Savage Orc Airboys is going to be rough. Crimson Killers of the Greenskins being one of the better kind of infantry duelist units in the game. These Marauders are heavily outmatched, and the Crimson Killers with Dawa going to be taking them to Pound Town. That is for sure. So farewell, sweet Marauders. Did about 2% damage to those guys as expected. So there's a Giant here, Spotted a Bad Moon active as well. And I kind of was like, oh man, this went in my mind. I was like, oh, this went so badly for the Greenskins here. But suddenly I was like, they're starting to hold a little bit. The Orc Boarboys with the Wa, Skarsnik. We got the Giant in here. A lot of my Rot Knights are really, really low health. And the Buna on the Rot Knights is extremely punishing, right? Buna is always excellent against heavy cavalry units. So both Rot Knights here going to get Buna down pretty damn hard. And Tamurkhan still trying to fight the Giant. He is an anti-large halberd fighter, which that's why I like him on foot in this matchup, right? He is large himself, which makes him kind of weak at being surrounded by Orc Boarboy Biggins, but he's able to fight this Giant, keep it honest. Rot Knights do get beat up a little bit, and I am behind with the Bounce of Power, so I was like, oh boy, this one's not going super hot. My elite units have been hit pretty hard, but you know what's cool about being Nurgle and having elite units is you can heal them. So my game plan here was to try and gather up all my elite units. My 2 Plague Ogres, my 2 Rot Knights, both of which are routing right now, most likely going to be rallying, and of course getting passive healing, and use an overcasted Fleshy Abundance from my Sorcerer here to try and get them back up to fighting shape. On this side here, the Plague Ogre is going to be running away from the Crimson Killers. These missile units have been doing huge damage, and if they weren't stacked on top of each other, it would be a little bit worse. But even still, they're shooting for the most part and punishing back my Plague Ogres. On the backside, we do see the Marauders, beating Goblins, but losing against the more resilient units, and Bounce of Power looking pretty damn good for the Greenskins. But it's Nurgle in time, baby. We're going to try and get back. Chad, Tammy, he's doing a great job here, pushing back the Giant. I mean, he's got about as much HP as the Giant almost. He's not quite as much, but it's up in the ballpark. He is an absolute beast. And I think on foot is where you're going to see him more often than on his Toad Dragon. If you're fighting a melee-centric faction that doesn't have, like, if you're fighting a Marauder Horseman faction, somebody that relies on Marauder Horsemen, like Slanesh, for example, who's going to be using Whipped Warriors, I think you might find a place for them there. So Tamurkhan does get rampaged, and what's rough about this is, didn't even occur to me, is Skarsnik is a really good anti-large fighter. So he's got his little poke and prodder. I get rampaged, my melee defense is down to 18, and Tamurchad is getting his butt kicks right here. He is getting it. The Giant's beating him down, Skarsnik's beating him down. So I know I need to gather the boys. So this is when Nurgle has to get back in the game, ladies and gentlemen. The Chosen are fighting in here, but Crimson Killers are enveloping in, but we get a big charge in, the Plague Charge of the Plague God. Look at that, huge one. I love those Rot Knights. They're so cool. I got to get back some of those for tabletop. But nonetheless, the Plague Ogres on their way in, moving and a grooving, so that's going to be a lot of hard-hitting power here. Tamurkhan is pretty close to dying, but he's unbreakable, which is good. And now it is time for Overcasted Erect Fleshy Abundance. So watch the bounce power right now. I'm going to get an Overcasted Fleshy, which costs 28 Winds of Magic. It's insane. But it's going to heal my whole army. And look at the bounce just going back up towards the middle. You can see it moving. Yeah, look, see, it's going up there, baby. And it's going to keep cruising. It's so good. So the Rot Knights are going to heal up. We do get the counter charge in on the Orc Boar Boys before they get a full charge on us. Rot Knights should be able to win that with the Chaos Sorcerer helping out and all the poison. And Tamurkhan is, he is Nurgle's favorite son. The Black Cleaver is active too, so huge stat buff for all these Nurgle boys as Tamurchad continues to fight against the Giant. He's actually wearing it down. It's pretty cool that, like, pre-patch Nurgle would really struggle against something like this. Like, against Giants, you would basically have to use your Marauder Horsemen, which is really haggard with all the Error Boys. But now, like, Nurgle can fight anti-large in melee too. This is a very, very even match. It's very, very close. Neither of us are using, like, optimized meta builds by any stretch, but it's time to explore and see what's good. So Chosen are still here, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're, yeah, they're still fighting nearby. They did get the Black Cleaver, and the Chosen are not fully engaged with the Crimson Killers, which is good. The Crimson Killers would counter them pretty well. Tamurchad's going to be hunting down the Giant here. Meanwhile, the Spirit Leeches popped on something or other. I think it was popped on one of my Plague Ogres, yeah, or no, the Rot Knights back here. But that passive healing of the Rot Knight's pretty big. It'd be cool to see if there was like a stat after the game, how much HP a unit healed. I think that'd be a really, really neat bit of info. Nice Fnatic play. Fnatic's one of the most busted things in tabletop. I've been playing a bit of old world tabletop. Man, it's so fun. I just played a tournament the other day. It's a blast. It's such a good game. Anybody looking for a fun tabletop game, if you have a community around you that plays it, I highly recommend it. It's fun, especially if you're a fan of this game. Giant here, getting poisoned, but still going strong. The Rotting Host is nearby, so Tamurkhan does have an AoE leadership debuff, which is very good. The bravest Chosen of the Plague Father, I decided to kite the Crimson Killers. We're about the same speed, but if I just keep force pathing away, it's going to mitigate my casualties until I want to take that fight. The Rot Knights did rally, the ones that broke over here, and these other Rot Knights are going to be flanking about as well. So trying to shut down the Error Boys. But those Savage Orc Error Boys, oh, that's how he did it. He gave them Spider to Bad Moon. They had anti-large and were fighting my Knights very well. And Rot Knights are not as tanky as Chaos Knights. Chaos Knights have more armor, and although arguably the regeneration does make them tankier in some ways, but like Chaos Knights would cleave through Savage Orc Air Boys, whereas these guys are more of like an anti-large unit, right? So good rampage there on the Rot Knights. He does use Skarsnik's Fermented Fungi, but this time I decided to engage with the Chosen, so the Chosen are going to be assisting the Rot Knights, and even though Chosen with the shields aren't going to be like, you know, true anti-infantry units, well, they kind of are, I suppose. They're like a generalist, but they will be able to defeat the Crimson Killers in their state with the Rot Knights supporting. Plague Ogre is coming in with the rear charge, and Tamurkhan also here to lend his aid to the battle. The big man is here to party. Oh man, look how much bigger he is than that troll. That's so cool. But yeah, he bonks that troll in the head. Crimson Killers are wavering, and it's starting to look like it's Nurgle in time. In the back, couple Marauders make their way back in. The Rot Knights break once again. Ogre's broken, but have rallied, and the Sorcerer of Nurgle, I think I chased something off the map and forgot to bring him back, but we're moving in. Nice Fanatics, once again, going through the Chosen, but there are 61 of those bad boys, but Tamurkhan is a pretty terrifying fighter. Skarsnik does have anti-large, but he might be able to still win it. It's hard to say. The Nurgle Sorcerer is going to be helping a lot. He's got 37 melee attack and decent weapons rank, so I'm hoping he can help me deal with little old Skarsnik. But the big flank's coming in, probably going to be a break. The Giant did get killed by Tamurkhan, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, the Giant did go down to the mighty Maggot Lord of Nurgle. Rot Knight's going to be hustling back across, and now the Greenskin leadership is going to be very fickle. There are some unbreakable Night Gobbos still fighting here, but Chosen should be able to grind them down over time. Very close one here, but we do get the Black Cleaver once again activated. It looks like it's weird. It's buffing, does it only buff certain unit types? Let's go ahead and see. So Black Cleaver affects all allies in range. Huh, that was weird. Maybe it's something that has to like spread. Who knows? Spider to Bad Moon active though, giving the little goblins anti-large, which is quite cool. The Savage Orc Air Boys in the back are continuing to shoot. And I know I got to take them offline because Tamurkhan only has 60 armor. Archers can actually kill him. So we get the Rot Knights rallied. Gonna be trying to clean these up, and finally the Plague Wolves of Nurgle will be able to clean them up, and the Air Boys are going to be in full route here in a second, and the other Air Boys are going to be the next target. Meanwhile, Skarsnik starts to lose the duel. Tamurkhan is assisted now by the Sorcerer, so it's going to be a good fight for us, while the Plague Ogre is still providing nice anti-large attacks against the Hag, although her regeneration and tanking it pretty well. Certainly the Romance of the Ages here. The Skarsnik is getting fickle on leadership, and I do have a Rancid Visitations coming up in just a hot second. So Rancid Visitations is going to be excellent at finishing off Skarsnik. He's hard to kill. His melee defense is really high, and honestly, he's been an MVP this game. I mean, he certainly paid for himself, but also the Rampages are really good. Rot Knights get back here, finish off the Savage Orc Air Boys. Skarsnik going to be routed, and Rancid Visitations in a couple seconds is going to be doing the trick, ladies and gentlemen. And Nurgle, the Plague God, has cackled once again. You can see he's running. A couple Gobos coming in to try and salvage the situation, but I just think that they don't have the fighting power left on the battlefield. With Tamurkhan being so healthy, the Sorcerer, and 57 Chosen units, it's going to be too much. So Aspect of the Dread Knight, it makes him resilient here with a little leadership buff. I do like that play from Goj. But here comes Rancid. It's Rancided time. Yes, Morbin time. Plague Ogres are about out of steam. These ones are going. Fecundity is active. Some of the archers did rally. Looks like my Rot Knights were pushed back. And you see what I'm saying about Savage Orc Air Boys? How excellent they are at fighting things off. But yeah, old Skarsnik not going to be long for this world, as he does get circle beaten here, and the Rancid Visitation's going to finish him off. A Nurgle thrown up on him from outer space. GG, well played. Really fun, really close game. We both had kind of off-meta builds. He brought like a Giant, and aside from the Giant, though, his build was kind of... I would say the Giant and Crimson Killers probably aren't meta, but they both did good. 2,000 value, 2,200. They were probably the strongest elements of his roster. Ogres... One of them paid for themselves, the other one didn't quite, 1,300 and 1,900. So we had one Ogre and one Rot Knight pay for themselves, the other two didn't. Tamurkhan, you know, he cost like around 1,900 with the kit that I brought. So he did fine. The Chosen were also great. They held really well and still had a lot of... if I didn't bring the Chosen, I think I would have lost that game. If I had brought a couple more chaff units, it would have been cut down. Having that anchor to fight on in the late game, super clutch. For the Gobos, yeah, Giant did good. Air Boys probably did great. Yeah, but that huge AoE heal we got on all my elite units, that was the backbreaker. Without that, that game's over. So, GG. See you guys next time. Take care of yourselves, and well played to my opponent. Good old Gooch.